That was one of the biggest positive aspect of a young girl, 9.5 years, 10 years old, telling someone else what happens, why would people go. Thought process, my controls, they were very balanced and they were very measured and they were got cured and
Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Beyond Blissful, the channel where we deep dive into life's challenges and victories, seeking the beauty and strength within every story. I am Richie, your host, and today we have an incredibly inspiring guest with us. Our today's guest is Nitin Singh. Nitin ji may seem like an ordinary man, but his story is anything but ordinary. He faced an unimaginable tragedy when he lost his wife to cancer at a very young age. Despite this heart wrenching loss, Nitinji stepped up as a single father to his young daughter, navigating the complexities of life with immense strength and grace. What makes Nitinji truly special is his resilience and unwavering determination. He didn't let his circumstances define him or his daughter's future. Instead, he found a way to rise above the pain and create a life filled with love, hope, and happiness for his family. Today, we'll hear Nitinji's story, his journey through grief, his experiences as a single father, and the wisdom he's gained along the way. His story is the testament to the human spirit and the strength that we can find within ourselves when faced with life's toughest challenges. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Nitinji's remarkable journey. Thank you for joining us on Be Beyond Blissful. Let's dive in. Welcome to my podcast, Nitin Paji. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for taking your precious time out and coming and, talking about your life with us. Can we please start with your introduction?
thank you, Richie, for inviting me to your podcast. And I think what you're doing through your podcast is pretty phenomenal. Sharing these stories, sharing people life experiences. I think in our day-to-day life, we all are influenced by these stories and experiences, and I think your podcast is going to make that difference. And yeah, I'm pretty glad to be just with you today and sharing whatever you have to ask. So let's see where it goes. So in terms of my introduction, where do I start? I think the good story or a good point to start is that I'm a single father with a young daughter who's 14 and a half. And my life is pretty much around her and also around my own personal growth and the quest to understand what this life is all about. Why, as a human beings, are we here? What is our purpose? And I think that's been driving force behind whatever I do, whatever I pursue in my career or in my personal life or in my spiritual life or in my just general quest to understand the meaning of life. So that's kind of one aspect of which what defines who I am. I think then professionally, I would say I'm very blessed and successful cybersecurity professional, along with having some smaller entrepreneurial things around the side. I run a restaurant. I have partnerships with your husband and doing some few exciting things with Raj as well. So I think that's also one good blessed aspect, I would say that. And then prior to that, I come from a very humble background from India. Grew up in Jalandhar. Roots are from a village in Punjab, Nawashahar district, and then been here in Australia since 2001, so around 23 years. So that's pretty much me.
Amazing. Long journey.
Yes.
23 years is a long time. So, all your adult life was here in Australia. You grew up in Australia.
I would say so. Yeah, I think prior to that, it was all about, you're just going to school, just enjoying the school life. Then you went to college because your parents told you that this is what you should do, a non-medical and engineering, and that's exactly what I did. But everything else, which is, we call it as a conscious decisions and conscious thinking about life, most of that has happened here in Australia. So I believe that my thought process and my thinking is, while it is rooted in Indian culture, but it's more influenced by the Australian way of life as well.
Amazing. Good. And were you married when you came here?
No, I got married in 2004, December 2004. And I was engaged in 2002 when I went back to India first time.
Wow.
So
Brave.
yes, so my parents had chosen a beautiful young woman who yeah. And
So it was
then
an arranged marriage.
it was definitely arranged marriage, and then of course with the time it allowed us to be a lot more closer and
Of course.
know each other, and then it becomes arranged plus love
Love,
plus
yes, everything.
relation and the marriage.
Very nice. That's like most of the Indian marriages
Yes.
back in those days. It's changing now, though.
Yep.
Okay, so you said you're a single parent. Please tell us about that.
Unfortunately, we lost Parveen in December 2018 to a cruel disease, a blood cancer, and she had a form of that which is called leukemia, AML, acute myeloid leukemia. It was diagnosed in June of 2018. We were actually in Hawaii in May, having a beautiful holidays, just enjoying. And as soon as we came back, Parveen was supposed to go for a regular blood test, and this is where it was diagnosed. She was diagnosed with leukemia, and I think that shifted everything in our life. And over the next 6 months, it was just a struggle to get the leukemia down and to have her going for a bone marrow transplant. But unfortunately, we could not, even though she was the bravest lady I have ever met in terms of how she dealt with the disease and how she portrayed herself in front of her family members and other people. But it was at the end, we lost her, and she left us in December of that year. And and that's then it's just a life with me and my daughter. And
How old was your daughter?
She was 9 years, 9.5 at that time. So, yeah, she was pretty mature in the way that she understood everything what was going on. And
I think kids at that age, my daughter is turning 11 soon.
yes,
And from my experience, what I can say is when she was 9, that's when she was figuring out quite a lot of things,
Yes.
Things that you talk about. She asked me about death as well, my daughter, she did. So I'm sure she must have found out one way or the other, maybe on her own, or did you tell her? Did your wife told her? Did you tell her prior to your wife passing away? Or was it just all of a sudden thing? It was all of a sudden because you only had 6 months. It was, I wouldn't say, and no one can ever be prepared for something like this. But how did you tell Ekam?
I think it was like I remember, because Ekam, as mother and daughter, you always have a very strong bond. And like, Ekam would come from school every afternoon, or Parveen she'd make sure that she goes and picks her up. She arranged her work accordingly that she was able to pick her up. And then both of them would have a dance, both of them would cook in the evening. I have some, talks of them just talking about they would watch some of those TV shows, Australian Idol, and some of those kind of shows together. And Ekam does have those kind of memories. When Parveen was diagnosed and she had to be taken into hospital, it was, I think, in the early days, it was more about, yes, mom's sick and there's some serious sickness. I think I did remember discussing with her, but I don't think so. We ever talked about that. It could lead to something, what it led to. But over the period of time, Ekam and I were just trying to work and to look at the whole positive. And this is, as a human nature is, that you always look for the positive, that it's going to be better, and you never ever, doesn't matter how bad it is, even to the last moment, you don't think it's going to turn negative ever. So it was always about, she'll come home, she'll be better. She used to come home, after every couple of weeks, or and will be with us for a few weeks. We will take her on those kind of either the blood transfusion or some other chemos. She will go back and she'll stay and then come back. So it was just like that for us going. And but I think over the period of time, she started figuring it out that it's some kind of serious sickness. But we never discussed about her leaving. I believe in her last days when I don't think so we ever discussed, even when Praveen was here, that she would leave with Akam directly. But I think it was through the natural course of her understanding life. She started, or she probably understood at some point in time that mom's going to leave and something's going to happen. Or maybe when Praveen left, that's when she felt it that way. But what I remember is after that, the way Akam presented herself and asked some questions, and the way she talked to me, it was more comforting for me to accept and deal with it, because I would get into the kind of those emotional dramas and emotional whirlpool. And she would say at that time, Papa, I think we need to move on. You need to think about, like, if I would talk to her about Praveen, she would not talk about Praveen in those early days. She would just shut herself off, and she would say, we need to move on. Why we need to discuss this? And she's shown a lot more maturity, which has helped me become a lot more mature and to be able to accept it the way it is. So yeah, I think.
How did you deal with it? Taking care of your wife who is so severely sick and having a young daughter, she must have had her own, I was going to say tantrums, but that's not a right word to use here. Maybe, her own emotional
Yes.
issues that she must be facing, what's going to happen. The person she's relying on most of the time is not there for her anymore. Because, like all the other kids, they come back from school, they have their own things, they want to discuss stuff. So you must be, juggling quite a lot in those 6 months. So how did you deal with it?
I think there's probably two aspects to it. One is the aspect of our family and relations. So we are extremely fortunate, and when I look at some of our friends and circles, I believe having that sort of a family support is very, very important. And when you have that, it makes a huge difference. That's what has happened to me. So my younger brother and his wife, his two kids, they live very close by. Praveen's sister and some of her brothers, cousin brothers, they also live very close by in the same suburb where we live. So for me to manage the logistics, let's say just a very basic logistical aspect of life, they were very well supported by these families around me, because I'd never had to think twice to ask someone for help. It was just naturally it was coming, because it was just a family thing. So I think that is a very important aspect of life, which I have learned, is that friends are very good. They always matters, and I have some very beautiful and great friends, but also families do matter. Sometimes I think in today's world, what we have done is we are becoming so nuclear that we have started taking families for granted and not giving them the space and the time which is required, and which is what I think I give credit to Praveen to change that dynamics for us. So that part definitely helped. Then comes it's about the emotional and the acceptance around why it is happening, what is happening. Of course, I would question it, like, I have, as boys, or I think as normal humans, we do a lot of wrong things in our life. We would hurt someone, we would have taken a wrong step, you would drink, you would eat meat, and all these sort of things. And when I looked at Praveen, she hardly, like, she only drank because, like, maybe a glass of wine because of me occasionally, very, very occasionally. She was the healthiest person with the right habits. She would never eat a food which is cooked and available for next day. She would cook every day fresh food. She would bring all the right ingredients. So for me to understand this, that how a healthy person with a very positive, healthy mindset gets sick from a disease like this, it kind of, for me, that was like, wow, what is this life all about, man? A person who hasn't done anything wrong in one way has always looked positive, whereas people like us or some other people I look at it who've just been drinking, doing all those sort of things, smoking, and nothing happens. So like where does this whole disease and where does this whole situation comes from? So that was one aspect of me trying to understand and deal with. And then of course being able to stable myself with work commitments. I was doing a full-time job in the university. Of course, I had the restaurant at that time. So then a friend of mine who were a partner with me in a business, he helped me with the business aspect of things. He took over a lot more responsibility. And then in terms of my own internal struggle, I think that was more influenced by my spirituality, my reliance on the wisdom out of Gurbani. So I would listen to a lot more Gurbani. I would try to understand what exactly Gurbani says about all these sort of things. And then, of course, I was more aligned with the spiritual aspect from Sadhguru and doing some of the spiritual kiryas. And I think all those sort of different dimensions helped at that time. I feel they have helped me deal with it. And there could be some other natural, when you are stuck with a problem, something comes from within, which allows you to deal with this, whatever it is, as long as I believe you have the mindset to deal with it. That was there. But at the same time, I think as during all that time, my questioning, my quest started coming a little bit more deeper, I believe. I would sit down and I would just try to internally question that, okay, why her? Why not me? Why not someone else? What happens? Why would people go? And I think while doing all that questioning, and when you're questioning, you're also trying to find, okay, where I'm going to find the answer from. And you try to either listen to someone who have the wisdom, or you try to make sense of the different situations. So I think for me, it allowed me to connect, I think, with life and people a little bit more. I was a lot more, I would say, grounded. I was a lot more aware, conscious. And I felt that actually I have spoken to a couple of my friends who are in the similar sort of dimension, that for at least first 2 to 3 years, I felt, and right now, unfortunately, I feel that it's not a good thing, but maybe it's just a type of maturity and things happen. But for the first 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I felt that my thought process, my controls, they were very balanced and they were very measured and they were very aligned. But now I think I've just gone back into the fast track of life. That period was, I would say, while the first year was very hard, over the next 2 years, it was still very balanced period. Right now, I'm just running again, I think I'm going back into the race of life. But for that time, my awareness, my consciousness, I would be talking to people, I would be looking at things, they would be a lot more deeper. So now sometimes I feel that I just do the things at the surface, just get it by, move on. But I think to sum it up, it was just aspects of, my daughter helping me with these things. My family and friends, of course, who were always there. I could just rely on, not worry about that. Okay, who's going to look after these different aspects? And then I think the spiritual quest from within, and listening, talking to a few people, that helped me continue with this journey.
Did you ever blame yourself?
Oh yes, like there were a number of things, number of decisions. We talked about, there were certain things we, even during course of a treatment, even prior to that, like there are a number of things which has happened. Like I have analyzed the smallest of those elements, that okay, why did she got the leukemia at that time, not before? Because she was diagnosed with some blood disorder in 2012 as well, which got cured, and doctor said that if within the next 5 years nothing happens, then she's totally out of all that disorder. That was aplastic anemia. So that's a precursor to leukemia. We never thought that aplastic anemia could result in cancer. Like for us, cancer was not a thing ever. Aplastic anemia got cured. I've known a family friend whose mother was diagnosed with aplastic anemia, and she never got a cancer afterwards. I know another friend from my spiritual circles out of their Malaysian family. His wife was also diagnosed with aplastic anemia, and they were living a happy life. They got over it. But in Praveen's case, that aplastic anemia gradually turned into AML, because it started from there. But there were circumstances where I have blamed myself. Okay, why did it, like there was some infection she had, and I felt that the infection happened because of me. There were some times when we had treatment options, and we'll discuss with the doctor would say this way, Praveen would say this way, I would say this way, and I usually would have listened to Praveen and did which I did. And sometimes I feel I should have forced my decision rather than going with the Praveen's decision. We can all I have questioned all those sort of things, and there could be a number of other myriad of things, which I continuously blamed over, I think, 1 year or 2 years period of time. But again, at the end of the day, when you look at holistically, bigger picture sort of things, the things I believe, the things which are meant to happen, they're going to happen. I believe are probably coming to this life and are going out of this life is already predetermined. You don't, define that. Only things in between is what is in our hand. There's an element of our destiny or wisdom or our luck which we define. God would take us to a particular point in time that is predetermined. But from that point of time, what action we take, what decision we make, that is our. And those actions and decisions are based on our learnings and our social circles and all. So for me, I think I started to kind of accept everything the way it is. As is, in Gurbani, it says, Tera pana meetha lage. That means whatever has been given by gurus and banis, and it has been written like hundreds and thousands of years back. So you have to accept it. The new things about how life works. So if we can accept it, then it's much easier. And that's what I have learned over a period of time, that we can blame ourselves. I think I wouldn't say it's wrong, it's natural. But as long as you can start seeing the bigger picture, then the blame fades away and you start appreciating and understanding the beauty of life, what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. But it's very natural when things like this happen. Like any other thing, when goes wrong, as humans, we tend to blame.
Absolutely.
It's because of him, because of her, because of that, because of the conditions, because of the weather, whatnot. We can blame anything and everything. But when something like this happens, you don't know who to blame.
No.
And in the end, I think we always will look into ourselves and try to blame us for something like this to happen. And it's very hard, but then it also shapes you. It almost is like, things like this would force you to become a new person. It's like going through a metamorphosis.
Yes.
It's very, it's not a good position to be in. It's very hard, but if you allow yourself. But I think in your case, you were already spiritually inclined. That's what would have helped you to go through that metamorphosis, that state in a the transition would have been smoother, as opposed to people who are not spiritual.
Probably. I think I would definitely.
Did you feel that, or did you feel there was, I'm not saying that it would have been easier for you in that sense. It cannot be easy for anyone. But it would have been like it would have been like, a cushion, a support.
Oh, yes.
Where, so you were not just on your own. No. You had things to rely on.
Exactly. Yes.
You knew that you could rely on Gurbani. You kind of, found your comfort there. Or, were you still doing your Kriya? Were you still meditating? After that, were you able to meditate? I think that's what would be the right question.
Yeah, I think to your first point, all these aspects of life, spirituality, wisdom, a relation with the right person who can share your pain and grief and give you a sort of support is very, very important. And I would definitely say that in my case, going through all that situation, if I'm not sure what's next, it will be okay. I'll listen to something, listen to a Bani, listen to a wisdom by a gurus and some other people, like Sadhguru is one of them, Muji and a couple of other people. I would listen to what they have to say about death, for example. So this definitely helps. To your point, definitely it was a cushion which I could rely on and I could just find a comfort. In terms of me practicing Kiryas, I'm not very sure. I think there was a time when I probably forced myself to get back into it. I was not, of course, when Praveen was in hospital, I don't think so I was doing any Kiryas at all. for that period, and I'm sure after that for some good period of time may not have been, but there would be some trigger when it kicked back in. I don't exactly remember, but prior to that, yes, I was doing. Praveen was very supportive of me, doing whatever. Like, I think her selfish view was that, okay, if you're doing this, then you're probably drinking less. You are thinking a little bit more about positivity and different aspect of life. So she was she was happy, and she supported me with all these wherever I had to go to do my either practices or to, yeah. So definitely
Did
it did
you
help.
ever did you ever try to blame the universe, the God, the supreme power that, despite you being spiritually inclined, despite, you being initiated into something very powerful like this, that why did it ever happen to you? Because, if I wanted to share my experience, if somebody who is spiritual or religious, they would be like, oh, nothing can go wrong with me because, I do part. And, especially if you are doing a lot of religious practices, you would be like, we all do it out of fear or expectancy that nothing will go wrong in our life.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we think death is a wrong thing, but it's not a wrong thing. We
No.
all are born to die.
Yes.
But it's like, we won't have to face any hardship because we are spiritual. Is that right?
Not actually. In my case, I don't think so. I ever thought that because I'm spiritual, so nothing wrong should happen to me. It was the other
Did you
thing.
feel that before, or is that your thought process now? I'm asking, when this happened, did you think
No, I
that
think
why
no.
it happened to me despite?
See, I don't think so. I ever thought about related the two aspects together. But what I related was, why did it happen to Praveen rather than happen to me? Happen to an individual, like, okay, I'm, as we know, like, spiritual, but at the same time, I've done a lot of wrong things, man, a lot of wrong things, like as any human being would do. You have hurt people, you have done like a lot of, like, I would not say. Whereas someone like Praveen, who I knew, like, who was just, you have lived a very pure and simple life, very simple human life. Spirituality is about just living a simple human life. We are trying to, I'm doing now 45 plus, I'm trying to learn and live that simple life now. She naturally was living that life. So my question was always, why did it happen to her? Why did she had to go through it? If it was to me, I wouldn't have any problem, I think. I know that what I have done, what kind of person I am. So my question was that people who are pure and simple, why does it happen to them as opposed to people who go through,
But she's gone.
Yeah, no, that's where
she didn't suffer. It was you who, in my opinion, or how I see it, is people who are left behind. They are left with the questions.
Absolutely.
They are left
yes.
to face themselves,
Yes.
and are pushed and forced to be
True.
a different person than who they were.
Yes.
So if somebody if someone dies, they die.
Yes.
So the suffering would have been only for a certain period of time.
Yes.
That would have been like a physical suffering. And I assume, if something like this, if she was in longer periods, she must have been unconscious as well, so she doesn't know.
Yes, true.
Right? But it's it's Akam. I think about her, why it happened to her. Like,
Yes.
when you're talking to me, I'm thinking, such a young child, why
exactly? Yeah.
And even if it did, how she would have dealt with it, and how she would have been feeling about it right now as
Absolutely.
well. And you, because you were forced to be someone who you were not.
No.
You were not a single father.
No.
You were not worried about your daughter, as you said. You were like working outside the house, and so you were forced to do all of those things and think and be and act and perform in a totally different way.
Yes. I think, I'm sure the thought would have come, thought did come, I think. Now that you put it that way, definitely, I wouldn't say that kind of thought doesn't come or did not come. It did come, and maybe at times it also still comes. But I think, as I mentioned, like, for me, it is about acceptance. And the moment I realized that I accepted it the way it is, it made a huge difference. I think for me, that starting point of acceptance, like it's just, I'm missing the Gurbani's words, which I think I spoke at Praveen's, the passing when we had a cremation afterwards. It was out of Japji Sahib, I'm missing the words, but anyways, that did allow me to accept it the way it is. And from then on, as it was just the quest and just being happy with whatever it is, just being be with whatever it is. I feel that if you ask me in a more, let's say, the positive aspect of it, I'm glad. I'm glad in a way that, of course, Praveen left and she's not into that suffering. For me, she's fortunate, who probably was required to be in a different form and different place. She'd done her job, whatever she was supposed to come and do, be it change us, be it, and it's only, as to you put it in a way that we are the ones who are either suffering or we are the ones who are having the hard time. So, but I think if she has done the job, now it is our duty to do our job. And the best way we can do that job is to accept and then live with it. I didn't never wanted to leave her memories behind and anything. It's there because she influenced who we were, how we lived life. So I wanted that to be part of our life in a positive and good way. Like sometimes people think, oh, you haven't moved on. No, man, that's not the case. It's not about moving on per se. It is about learning from the wisdom and the experiences of other people. And I think we just wanted to try to imbibe that as much as we could. I think if the suffering, or let's say the negative aspect was there, but once you accept it, you live with it, and I feel that it's good. It's the way the life right now it is. It's
I'm
the best
sure,
life.
Raji, you feel good now that
Yes,
you
now
are saying it now. So I am asking from a perspective. So say someone who is listening to this podcast
Yes.
or watching this podcast is going through a similar phase or has recently lost a loved one. What advice would you give to yourself if you want to? I'm sure there must have been things, which were at that point you thought you would never work out. It would never, or life is not going to be, I can never be that person. But actually now you are a better person than who you thought you wanted to be.
Yes.
So that's what you're actually saying, that, it's all for now. So at that point, if someone is at that point, what would you want to say?
First of all, I definitely don't want anyone to be in that sort of situation, but the reality of life is we're all going to face it. One way or the other. It's different stages, different times. I think the first thing would be definitely just give yourself a time and a space you need for yourself. Do not get influenced by what others have to say, what others tell you to do. Just look within to find that space and time. It is going to take its own time. It's going to take its own space. You got to be able to find it. The only thing I would say, which makes a difference between one or the other person, is how you relate to that time and space. If you relate to that in a positive and in a more acceptance way, you'll start getting through it in a right and positive way. If you start dealing with it in a negative way, or in a way of saying there's a void, there's a gap, and you are not going to be able to deal with it, then it may take you in a negative path. Because I have seen both aspects of, a friend losing a partner, a friend losing a relationship, and then going into a different journey altogether, which I sometimes feel is not the way to do it. So I believe giving yourself space and time and relying on the people you can definitely trust. There were some people in my life, there were some friends who would call me and who will check upon me and who will ask me different aspect. This is also was a very, very big aspect. So if you have an individual, one person, you don't need too many, just even one person who you can just pick up a phone, you can see it in person, definitely do that. And I think other would be to people like us. If we see that a family member, a friend, or someone who's going through this kind of trouble, or maybe even not a family member, I would say, just extend that helping hand. Just if you're just telling someone that, I'm there if you need it, and doing even a small gesture of just maybe just with the food for a time, that could make a huge difference. And so I think it's always going to be as I said, the circumstance is going to happen. It's the choice we're going to make from that situation. The choice is yours. That's what I feel, that choice is going to help you move either positive or in a different direction altogether. And I wish that you always give yourself that space and time to move in the positive side and look into the acceptance first, and then what rest of the life has to offer you, and rest of the people who are dependent on you, what you're supposed to doing for them, because life is not just about yourself. A lot of other people are dependent on you. So you got to start looking at that aspect, that how positively you're going to make a difference in their lives. And I think then it does definitely help.
So what you're saying is, number one, give yourself space and give yourself time.
Absolutely.
Do not be in a rush to live life.
No, not at all. Yes, absolutely.
Give yourself time, cry, sit alone.
Absolutely.
Do whatever
Best
you want
things.
to do.
Yes.
Do.
Yes.
In that given time.
Except reliance on a negative, like, alcohol or
Yeah.
something which could just take you out of your senses.
No, but feel it.
Feel it.
Absolutely. Accept it and feel it. I mean, be with the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Grieve about it.
Absolutely.
Mourn
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Do whatever you want to do. And if as individuals we see someone who is going through something like this, offer some sort of help, whatever you can, in whichever way.
Yes.
Even, just meeting them in person.
That's it. Yep.
You don't even have to mention anything, say anything, just being there.
Just being there, giving them a good, beautiful hug.
That's
more than enough.
That's all. And I would agree. Just so I remember who were the people who were there. And I also remember people who were not there.
Yes.
And that changed my whole, the dynamics of the relationship with quite close ones as well. And I know you mentioned that, for you, your family members were, quite, they were your strength at that point. For me, it was very different.
Mm-hmm.
So how I saw, my extended family, or, people who I used to rely on, and post that, it was very different. I could feel that, it does not really matter. Life moves on. Life goes on for everyone.
Everyone, yes.
And it's you.
That's it.
So, and you always have a choice also. So it's okay. It's okay to take your time. We are not in a race. No. You're not going to you won't be left behind whatsoever.
Trust me.
You can always catch up.
So true, Richie. I think what you say is, when we're young, when we're coming out of college, and even someone who's same age and just they have gone into next year. I remember in school times, person born in the same year but into next class, and we would feel that, oh my goodness, they're going to be ahead of us. But man, in big scheme of things, nothing matters. This time, this race, where other person is, you don't even know what they're going through, what their situation is. So definitely do not ever look at other people in a way that you're in a race or you want to be someone, or just live your own life, because your own life is a life in itself. It's a world in itself. And just be with that. I think you're absolutely right.
We feel that we are in race with someone. We only have this much time. No. You have enough time. Until you are alive.
Yes.
You always have time.
Yes.
So give yourself that time.
Exactly.
Take the help from wherever you can.
Yes.
Accept and make the positive choices.
Yes.
On having said that, taking positive choices, Baji, I want to say that I don't think it's easy or it comes naturally to everyone to make the positive choices, or, not rely on alcohol and any sort of addiction, or even I would say mental health, going through depression. It's not a choice. No. You didn't, because you had a strong foundation of spirituality. You had that cushion. You had that cushion. But generally, people will go into depression.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I did, big time. But it was a very, very bad phase. I was diagnosed as psychotic. There were times I would forget things. And I don't remember the whole time. I don't remember that first 1 year. I don't even remember everything. But I remember I used to feel comforted a lot comforted when I used to do guided meditation, closing my eyes.
Sure.
That was like a drug. I wanted to do it. I wanted to just sit and close my eyes and sit, but with that guided meditation on. I wouldn't have been able to close my eyes without that tape going on.
Yep.
And also with doctors telling me that you need to be on certain, prescribed drugs, that
Yes.
you have to be on this medication for next 5 years. You're that bad, so you have to be on it.
Wow.
So, and I'm telling myself, I don't want to be on medication. I don't want to rely.
Yes.
I don't remember everyday stuff. Like years later, my husband told me that, he was so supportive, by the way, that, I used to forget things. Like I would have, brought the groceries, put it in the cupboard. Next morning, I'm saying, where did this come from? I didn't bring it. Did you bring it? No, I didn't. You did it. I didn't. So a week would vanish out of my life. Sometimes 10 days would vanish out of my life.
Yes.
So I don't remember, but I clearly, distinctly remember that I cannot be. I'm sitting with the psychiatrist. There's the psychologist. There's this other, there were 3 specialists in the room, and they're like, this is what it is. You have to have this medication. It's going to go for these many years, and, you will feel better after that. I was determined not to take it. I stopped taking my medication without even telling my husband that I'm not taking it. So I don't know if it was the right thing to do or wrong thing to do at that point, but now I feel I am much more stronger.
Yes, good.
But I also had this base of spirituality. I did not have a living guru in my life at that point, and I was not even looking for one. Hardcore Sikh girl, relying on Gurbani, relying on Guru Nanak Dev Ji all the time. And I remember somebody, a friend of ours, who came to our place, and I was just talking to them, and he said, looking at me, that I think you would benefit from Reiki. And instantly I said to him, the biggest Reiki healer for me is Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
Yes, beautiful.
So he's looking after me. I'll be fine. And I know, I've been looked after, because being in that phase to here, without medication, and then post 2 kids,
absolutely,
whatnot, it's there. But what I'm trying to say over here is that we all think that, life will not happen to us, or it's all going to be rainbows and sunshines, or it's going to be a fairy tale life, especially when we are in our younger stage. In 18, 19 and 20s, like early 20s, you're full of fire.
Yes.
Nothing can go wrong.
No.
Nothing can go wrong. Never. We are, we've got this, we know everything, and everything is going to work out. No matter what. We are at that point, I think we all are partying in our own, like I didn't party, but I did things that I like to do. I would be out in the city every night, waking up late. I was not a drinker, but, doing things, doing life.
Absolutely.
Having fun, whatnot. Nothing can go wrong. And then all of a sudden this happened, my first child, and the world just changed.
Yes.
But then I am definitely sure that if I didn't have that spiritual aspect in my life, I would have been succumbed to the depression, to the psychosis that I had, and there would have been no way I would have done it without the help of medication. There's nothing wrong, but there is a lot of, dependency, and then I wouldn't have had this strength in me, I would say.
Yep. And this is, I think, the point you raise, Richie, is, if you ask me, it is a point which I'm still trying to work through. That, as I mentioned, a friend of mine, for example, and I'm sure we all have friends who are going through some sort of depression or in some sort of form of those elements, and you try to talk them and say, you know what, I do spirituality, it will help. But whatever they go through, I don't think so. It's that easy. And using that example, the person is not able to even get on to just being able to sit to do a meditation or follow through that, and they could be dependent on, as you said, prescribed medicine or prescribed drugs, or could be relying on alcohol or some other aspect. I'm still trying to understand, how does one make a difference from that when you're given that choice, or you're given that first event when happens, and from there on you made some choices, You went to a doctor. In my case, I didn't have to go to a doctor. You went to a doctor, you were prescribed some medicine, but then you made a choice that, you know what, I'm not going to take it. I made a choice of, you know what, I'm just in this zone and I'm going to take my time, I'm going to have space, and I'm going to just listen. Something going to give me comfort. But where did that decision came from in my mind? I don't know. Was it like, as you said, could be our spiritual foundation? But then for other people who also understand, they're mature like our age and everyone is mature, but they still struggle with that, getting out of that, circle, dependency on drugs. And if you ask me, yes, spirituality and the foundation is a good thing. And if it happened before you get into a situation, very nice, because then it gives you that foundation and you move on. But if you don't have that foundation and you are stuck with the situation, what do you do after that? Because you're into that sort of spiral. And I don't have the answer.
I don't have the answer
I'm
either.
just trying to, is that like, sometimes this is where, like, again, the questions about life, I try to work it out. Is the way of life allowing them to deal with it? Is this is the way it should be for them? Or do they have a choice? Do they have a will? So, that big spiritual question, it's a will versus destiny. Do you have a will to change thing, or is your destiny to be in that situation? That's where it goes beyond my own personal, understanding of life so far. And I really wish that it is more of a will rather than a destiny, that you find that will from somewhere to change that. So yeah, don't have the right answer, but I think that's the question. That's where I would ask even some of your followers and even yourself or anyone else who was from our circles, that if this is a will, how do you ensure that that will is instilled, and then you just live from that will onwards to do certain things which is more positive rather
You
than
have to have a stronger why. A why. What's your why?
Oh wow, that's beautiful, actually.
So if you don't have a why,
yes,
why you want to get better, why you want to live life and enjoy life, if you don't have that reason in your head, and that reason is not big enough, and you are bigger than the reason, then that reason will never take over. It's going to be you, your
Very nice.
mindset, and that's how I feel.
Well, that's beautiful,
And
actually.
I had that why. That for me, that why was that I do not want to let my guru down. Subconsciously, because I did a lot of part, and I had a big faith in Guru Nanak Dev Ji. I still have. He's a living reality, like he's a presence within me. Okay, and I believe he listens and he does. He answers. The fact that I'm here talking to you is that he's a living presence within me. Okay, otherwise I wouldn't have been, because of all that happened along those years. So my why was that I cannot let my guru down. I just cannot. I'm a warrior. I'm a Sikh. And Sikhs are warrior.
Yes.
I am not in 1500s, so I don't have to go out and fight with someone else.
Yes.
My fight is with myself.
Yes.
Okay, so I cannot let my negatives overpower me, because I would let my guru down if I did that. That's
beautiful, actually. You know what? As the moment you said that why word itself, it hit me straight up, and I think that's probably is the answer. Right now, even in my career, and I'm going through some questions around why, and I believe if I relate back to my earlier situation, I think the why for me was my daughter. That I think probably that was the biggest why for me at that time. Of course, now the things have changed. She's grown up and all, but still, there's a lot more. Is that why is bigger than who I am, and that allowed me to find probably that positivity out of life. And I think you're absolutely right. Finding that why is very important. Thank you for sharing that piece of wisdom. Beautiful.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's what we are here for, and that's what we are doing here.
Yeah, nice.
Moving on to the next question, which I have always thought about. Why didn't you move on, or why didn't you ever felt or wanted to remarry, or even have even just a partner? Do you never felt a need of it? Or if you did, why not? Is it because of your daughter, or you never found someone you were looking? I don't know. I know it's very personal, but if you want to share, you can. If not, you can say no.
No, sure. I think it just didn't come to me. It doesn't even still don't come to me. Like, in our social circles, like my parents and even my, all the family members very close to me, they have always raised concerns for me that, hey, how are you going to live your life? You're going to have a partner. And I feel that I don't have a need for a partner to rely on someone else. I feel that whatever we have gained through, with Praveen being for how long she was with us for 14 years or so, to whatever now we have, me and Akam and rest of the family, is I don't need anyone to support me in my life. And I believe most of that I could definitely put back onto the spiritual aspect of the foundation which we built on. Then there could be some natural aspect of me, but I think that need never arises. Do you need a partner? Do you need a friend? Yes, I definitely support that. We all need some friends and some people in our life who you can talk to. As I said, I have some very strong, beautiful friends who I have a different kind of friends actually. There's a friend who I can talk to her about my daughter, because her daughter is of the same age. I talk to her about, let's say, the young girls things and the challenges they go through in the teenage, so I could speak to her. I have friends who are into a spiritual domain and who talks about different aspect of what this life is all about. And then whenever there's a question about why life is such and all, then I can talk to them. When I need to talk and think about relations, and I can talk to my brother-in-law, I can talk to my own brother, his wife. Social aspects are all taken care. So in that regard, and then I think on top of that, I enjoy my own company as well. I don't feel, when I'm alone, I just feel, I wouldn't say complete, I can say that I feel good. I don't feel that I'm missing any aspect of life. So I think it's all natural, because to your point, there are friends who are also, they think that they need a partner, and when I talk to them as well, I discuss the same thing. Hey, you feel that you need a partner. I don't feel it that way. I don't know why, but I think for me that, to your earlier point, I'm going to pick it up from, is that my why is very different. Why about life is very different. That why about my own responsibility is very different. So maybe because of that, this need is dissipated and it's no longer there. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm definitely absolutely fine with who I am currently, and I don't think it's going to change. And I look forward to the life. Sometimes my parents says, "What's going to happen when you grow older? You need someone along your side." I said, "What happened to Praveen? She left. So what happened if you get someone else in your life and they leave? There's no guarantee that everyone's going to be sticking around with you for the rest of your life." So if we don't know all those aspects, and I have actually, unfortunately, seen another friend of mine who's was in a similar situation. They got remarried and then they again separated from a second relationship. So for me, if I don't need to bring the complexities of relations of individuals in my life, then I don't need to. So I think from there on, I'm absolutely fine. Good.
No, good. And the key point over here is that you have accepted or learned to live with yourself. You enjoy your own company.
Yes,
that's the hardest part. People need partners because they're running from themselves.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, you got to start, the moment we start enjoying who we are and start living with that beauty, and then of course there's so much beauty around us, then and I think then everything is just falls in place. You just the needs and wants are taken care. So yeah.
Okay, moving on now, because you've been to Kailash.
Yes,
I want to talk about Kailash.
Sure.
I've heard people saying that, when you go to Kailash, there's something within you that shifts. There is something deeper within you that is fundamentally changed, or I don't know. So I've heard all kinds of stories. I want to hear yours.
So Kailash, I went in 2022. It was, of course, after seeing, because I follow Sadhguru like yourself, and I've seen a number of his videos and tried to research around it, understand the importance and aspects of Kailash. Um, in 2022, it was just that I felt that I just want to go. Like it wasn't like I've been following Sadhguru since 2012. So it's not that it happened during those times and any, but in 2022, it was just that okay, I need to go. So I just made my plans. I just followed through the process and everything else. But it was not at the back of that I'm going to go and find something there or change something. It was just that I felt that I need to go. So that was a kind of starting point. Um, I think in terms of definitely a lot of people have spoken about their different experiences, the transformative aspect of it, the energy aspect of that particular space itself, what it stands for. Uh, if you ask me, I went there. For me, it was the whole process and the journey, which has stuck with me for more than what the place as a Kailash is itself. And my experience of spirituality has been that it's not something which will happen straight away. It is everything what happens, like it's my own experience. It's not that I can relate to anyone else. It's my experiences. This seed of spirituality grows bit by bit, smaller, and very, in my case, it's very, very small steps. So going to Kailash, I came back. I can't say that I have transformed. I have something is dramatically changed in me. I don't see it, but I think something is definitely changing somewhere, and it's slowly changing, and it's changing for the all the positive and good aspect of it. So the whole journey which I followed through in Kailash with the people I went with, the time I spent with those people, that has helped me. And I think those people are still I'm in contact with. We talk, the number of other people I share with them. So we have all these sort of uh, um, connection. That connection is more positive. And the experience of going on that journey is what has stuck with me. I remember all the experiences. I remember spending time. In my case, actually, I want to go back to Kailash, and I'll tell you why I want to go back there is because we did a Kailash darshan. At that time, it was just after pandemic. China didn't allow people to come into their territory, and that's why we went into Nepal. And from Nepal, we went to the a particular place from where you can do a Kailash darshan. For example, if this is a border between Nepal and that's your Kailash, and I'm on this side, we could see Kailash, but I could not go near the Kailash. I couldn't go to the Mansarovar. So definitely, there's a second chance which I'm looking forward to, the opportunity which when and will happen. So we will I'll go and attend it, join it, either in a volunteer format or in any other format I could be. What would be the calling would be, I'll go at that time. But definitely I want to go back. Yeah, I think though, as I said, the journey is what has stuck with me more. The people I went with, that has stuck with me more, their experiences. I had different perspective about individuals and personalities before, and now it is very different after meeting some very, very phenomenal young different kind of people. Like there was a young girl who was leading the whole expedition on behalf of Isha. Her life story, wow, dramatic. There was another leader, like three of the lead people in that group, our doctor, our lead guide, second in charge, and the main person. Three of them from three different aspects of life. One was from, I think she was Spanish doctor, who was a Spanish. Then this young girl who was our lead, and then there was another person who was from Indian Defense Forces. It's about three different people coming together and just trying to lead and share their experience and making our experience very, very genuine. And plus the other 60 or so odd people I was with, it was just phenomenal. So for me, that has stuck. Their life stories, our time together, how we were stuck at a one particular place called Simicort because of the weather, and how different people took that situation, how they went through it. That was also like, it's still, I can still feel those days with me right now. So for me, that's more important.
What I'm gathering is that you were more of a spectator in that whole journey.
Yes.
You were an observer rather than living that journey, or
Yeah.
like as they say, this is one act aspect of spirituality or meditation that become an observer.
Mm,
So to me, what I'm thinking is that you were more of an observer
yes.
throughout the journey, and you observed probably, different aspects of people's lives,
Yes.
and then you observed how you are within yourself.
Yes.
Is that right?
I think
to
so.
say?
You're actually putting it in a really right way. Actually, I never thought it that way, but I think if I think about it not right now, yeah, I actually observed every situation, and sometimes, like now, I feel that how do I live that time and situation, and I believe it will happen. It's not that something I need to change. It's that probably that time following that event, I went to, for example, Samyama program, which is also one of the big program from Sadhguru. I feel that I'm more like an observer in all these sort of situations. And maybe there is, I wouldn't call it something wrong, but there is something more to these things to be able to live them. So maybe I'm not there to live them as yet, and my journey is to observe and then live. So, but
Or
I'm
maybe our journey is just to observe,
yeah.
and
So
not
like
to live. That's the whole work of spirituality, that rather than being in the situation, I mean, you are in there,
yes,
but you are more of an observer. So that's when you are like, you are in that calm state, that you are not entangled in the
yes,
situation.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yes.
And because you're an observer, you are in there, but you are an observer. You're not getting entangled,
Yes.
and you are not looking for some experience.
No.
That's
like
an experience itself.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. That was actually the case with me when I started Sadhguru's Shambhavi Kriya in 2012. I did my Isha Kriya before, which is the normal online course, and I think okay, that I did have some experience at that time, and I believe that experience or that placebo effect, what it could be, that said, oh wow, if you just had that doing Isha Kriya, imagine what could happen when you do Shambhavi. Imagine what could happen next. I did then Shambhavi and all. But if you ask me, I don't think so I have that experience, which I had that ever after that. Maybe it was just me dreaming, okay? But the gradual and smallest experience and the calmness and the peace which I have since then, on even though I do it on a regular basis or not, or wherever I go, I think that has made a big difference. So first it started with that I was looking for an experience. Then it shifted from that, okay, stop. You're not going to see the experience. Just live with it. Just enjoy it, whatever it is. Just be with it. So I think that you're absolutely right. That difference is
Do you
there.
think it's almost like living in trance? At times I feel, yes, I am, all enthusiastic and very full on with life, juggling so many things at the same time. But then somehow I feel, I am not into it. I am also an observer. Like, it's not, I am not deep, like I'm not deeply connected with it. I want to do it. My passion is there, that yes, this is what I want to do, or put my kids to this school, that class, whatnot. But in the end, it's not gonna change my life somehow if it didn't happen.
Yes.
Or I'm gonna moan and cry and or be angry, upset about it. It's just like I'm like in a trance phase. I'm gonna give my best. Happens, or if doesn't, who cares?
I think, Richie, this is where, like,
is that how you feel?
Exactly, man. That's where I was trying to say. That's exactly how I feel right now. I don't have a job, by the way. My daughter go to a best school in Melbourne. Okay. And then at the same time,
yeah, I know,
I don't feel like if it's okay, something will happen.
Something will happen.
I'm not stressed about it, but I'm doing my best. At the same time, the way you said before, it's like sometimes we just either living the life and running into it, and then sometimes you just pause and say, hey, what the heck is all this happening? And again, I talk to a number of my friends and all, and they sometimes they ask me that, why you're running after all these sort of things? You want to be doing a job, you want to be doing a business, you want to be doing this, and you want to be going to Kailash, you want to be running and all these sort of things. I feel that if not this, what else? Because you can't, in my view, for the moment, it's not that I can just leave everything and say I'm going to go sit in an ashram and just do my meditation and that's it.
And that's not spirituality,
In my view,
actually.
no. Spirituality is just about living every moment the way it is. That's how I try to feel that way. For me, whatever life throws at us, as long as we take it the way it is and then we live with it, like, I don't have a job, okay, well, you got to find it, man. Okay, what are you doing? I'm doing something. Fine, perfect. Happens, doesn't happen. Something else will happen. Or like worrying about things is not going to help either. So rather, I just enjoy the journey of finding a job, enjoy the journey of just being into too many things at the same time, or if there's nothing, that's also good as well. So I think, but this particular aspect, I'll just touch on it briefly. You remember I talked about the time after Praveen for 2 to 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
That was a time when I did not have many things going on in my life. I would just get up, do my things, go to work, come back. On my drive, I would either listen to some Gurbani or something. I would not even call people. I would not talk. That was 2 to 3 years time, and I enjoyed it. I would not say it, I felt any negative. I enjoyed that time. I always felt that that's level of connection, consciousness with everything stays with me. But now, from last 2 to 3 years, if you ask me, there's so much going on in life as well. And sometimes I wonder, was that time the good time, or is the good time? And I think it's probably somewhere in the balance between the two. You cannot be just, if you are running after, let's say, because of influence, then it's not good. But if you're running because of your inner calling, then it's good. Keep running. As long as as you mentioned, it's spirituality is about being with the things. And if you're running because of your own inner calling, and that calling says run, find a job, go to a gym, do this, and you're doing it everything in conscious way, and it's helping you and the people around you, then keep doing it. So I'm just trying to still kind of find that balance and trying to see which one is right and how to create that fine balance between the two, not just get influence. But we are human, man. Sometimes we definitely get influence. But again, once you are influenced, and if you think it's a good influence, take it as well. And I have taken a lot of good influence from different people as well, because that's why I was into spirituality.
Yeah. So do you think spirituality is the major aspect of spirituality is living life with all its shades, all the colors of
Yes.
it? I think people who sit and meditate go through a lot more turmoil within themselves than people who are active and managing so many aspects like you are. You go to Kailash, you've done Samyama, you do your practices every day, I'm sure. Then you have a daughter to look after. She's going to a private school, you said, and then you don't have a job. You're probably looking for one right now. But you're okay with all of it. You don't think there's nothing wrong. If not this, what would I have been doing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you feel, right? So it's not that, oh, you're doing so much, you don't have a job. So spirituality is all about living all of it, but not getting touched.
That's right. Yeah.
By it, or not worry, like the worry aspect of it. The worry aspect, it's everything except the worry aspect.
Absolutely. I think
So
you're putting it absolutely really right way. Absolutely.
So you don't have worries, but you want to do everything that you want to do. Like you want to be active.
Which you're capable of. And this is where one other aspect I see it, that we've been given, like as I said, my quest is about what this human life is all about. Now, I've been given this life. I have capabilities. I have, I'm fortunate to have all my senses and everything working properly. How can I make best use of this? For me, that is also another, like, if I don't, let's say I've got two beautiful, good hands, strong hands, and if I don't make a use of them, what's the point? So for me is that there is a mental capability, intellectual capability, physical capability. A lot of people don't have some aspect of this. Mentally, they're not there. But if I'm given all that, I should be using all my faculties and facilities to best of its abilities and best of its use. That sometimes could mean that you're just pushing the boundaries. You're just positively entangling yourself into things to test yourself, the limit and potential of being human. So for me, I'm also driven by actually that why is also a big why, and I'm going to start using your idea of why.
Go for it.
For that why I have this form as a Nitin, and whatever this form is physically, mentally, spiritually capable of, I should exploit every dimension of it. I should not live any element of my being not just working for these things.
So your capacity or capability of risk taking is enhanced with time.
And it's proportional to whatever I feel is I can take, I can write, I can do. So I'm just,
you can be everything and anything that
Yes,
you want to be. That's
exactly.
how you feel, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. That's how I feel about it as well. There is no limitation to anything. Like I know a lot of people, if I remember, I'd be sitting in a group of people, and if I'm talking anything spiritual, like be I do my kriya, whatever. I know people will make fun of me at times, that oh my goodness, you are going to be Mataji, or you are going to be whatnot. Because we all have these, fake gurus. And so people will make fun of me. But then I feel at times, that's okay. You can make fun of me, but then, this has led me to where I am today.
Yes.
And it has enhanced my perception in so many ways, and the risk-taking capacity. Like, what is there to lose?
Exactly.
I always feel, what is there to lose? I mean, I want to use my body, because anyway, I'm getting old, so may as well just use the body.
Exactly.
And use it to its maximum capacity. And I see the capacity keeps on increasing. So it doesn't stop anywhere.
No, true.
And it all looks like a game.
That's absolutely.
To me at times. Sometimes I am feeling sad about it, and I'm okay, I'm fine today, I'm sad, and I just be sad that day. I don't want to do anything.
Okay.
I just want to take things and the way they are today, no problem. And then next day I'm all enthusiastic again, running, things that I want to pursue, things that I want to do.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, I see people sometimes telling me, my goodness, how do you do so many things? My husband travels so much, like he's always traveling every 6 to 8 weeks, he's away for 3 to 4 weeks. And then my kids are young, so life is life. So sometimes I'm looking after work for him as well, or running few things for his work, or picking up kids. And in this country, with bare minimum help, you're doing everything yourself, right? Yeah, exactly. Like the household stuff and whatnot, cooking, cleaning, and everything. And then people will be like, how do you do it? Don't you get tired? And then I'm like, no, man. I can still do more. I think I'm doing less.
Yes.
At times I feel I'm not doing enough.
No.
There is more that I can do.
I have the same feeling all the time.
So the spirituality basically does not make you any lesser, or doesn't make you a person who just want to sit with a gentle smile on your face and talk softly. I'm not a soft-spoken girl, so
same.
I'm very loud. So it lets you live your life actually
in the most profound and effective way, in my view. And you don't have to let go of any aspect of who you are individually. The way you speak, the way you say things. I think there's an element of things you need to change, which is like, how do you don't hurt someone by saying negative words or something.
That changes on its own, doesn't it?
Yeah, don't have to do anything.
You don't even have to do anything.
Absolutely. No.
It drops off.
It drops off automatically. Absolutely. You're right. So yeah, I think it's like, life is full on, and just live it.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Yeah.
What 5 takeaways you want to share today from your life? Because you've been through a lot. Your life has been quite full on, very colorful.
Absolutely,
I would say.
It is.
So 5 takeaways.
5, okay. I think the first thing is, be absolutely selfish in self-love way. That first of all, if you're not selfish about yourself, which is like finding your why for yourself, then you would not be able to do anything, whatever, positively. Like, as I think we were talking before, if there's not much in your plate, how could you help other one who's hungry? So make sure that you are internally content with who you are, and make best, and then be happy with whatever you are. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter whatever it is. Doesn't matter whatever it is. Short, long, tall, one limb here, there, nothing. Be happy with what have you been given as an individual. That's the first thing. Once you're happy, I think then the second aspect is about finding your why. For me, as you there's some aspect of that why is related to, let's say, my responsibilities towards my daughter, responsibilities towards my parents, and some other social. So I think if you have found your why, it will, and that why is to your, I'm picking up your wisdom,
Go for it.
that if that why is bigger than you, then that's probably a right why, and then follow it through. Then just dedicate your life towards it, and there would be nothing wrong. And in my view, that will allow you to just channel your energies towards the right things. So that's second. Third is start probably loving your own company. Don't say and feel that you need someone else to complete you. Like, as in spirituality, we learn both the masculine and feminine is all within us. So if you start trying to balance that, and then start accepting that, I think you would be in the best company. As usually Sadhguru says, if you're not feeling good in your company, you're in a bad company. But if you start feeling with yourself, you can't have any better company than that. So third is about just finding that company within yourself. Fourth is just accept. If the life has to throw things at you, just accept them. Okay, I've got a wrong or bad situation. I'm going to accept it. And once you accept it, then you can chart your course from there on. Because the moment we don't accept what it is, because then we're going to fight. And that fight, we're never going to win. Because you're fighting against the odds of the cosmic energies and aspects, so you're never going to accept that. So that fourth is acceptance, and then moving on from there. And the last one would be just, I think, try to bring some element of spirituality in you. So all the 4 points I have spoken about, I think their foundation is at the back of some quest or some questioning about life. And I believe this questioning about life, and as usually Sadhguru says that, I don't know. When you have that question in you that I don't know, and then you just allow everything else to happen, and that probably sow the seed of spirituality, and then you just follow it through gradually, as much as you could do. Even a minute of you just being with you is a good starting point for me. Is that then try to find that seed, grow that seed, nurture that seed. So I think that would be my 5 takeaways from my journey so far.
So spirituality, someone wants to, after listening to this, someone wants to start on their journey. How would they take their first step? So for someone, what should they do? First steps, because first steps are the hardest.
Absolutely,
in this arena for sure.
I think the first step is always going to be very different for everyone. It will be related to your circumstances, your personality, who you are, what kind of things. For me, it was a question, what this life is all about before all these other events and things happened in my life. So for me, that was a question starting point. From there, I started looking at some answers here and there, and then I started getting into some. Could be that you're in a situation where it is so dramatic and it's unfortunately so painful that you're not sure where to go. I think again, this is where you either find someone else's wisdom, like you listen to someone who you can relate to, and use that wisdom to then start calming yourself and accepting those things. Or for other people who have never tried anything, I would usually, like a friend of mine, when I recently went to actually a bike riding trip to Tasmania for 10 days and rode a bike with a group of young people throughout Tasmania. And then one of the guys asked me about spirituality, and I said, man, when you're riding a bike, you're pretty much focused and you're riding at a full potential speed of that bike. They were doing 200 plus kilometers per hour.
Wow.
On those roads. And I said, when you're driving at that speed, what are you doing? You're absolutely aware and conscious of every nook and turn and everything on the road, the wind, the crosswinds and everything, and you're being conscious in your riding. So the moment you start being conscious about every aspect in your life, you're spiritual. So take that to as a next. So you did that on the bike. Why don't you do it when you're drinking coffee? Why don't you do that when you are just sitting with someone and looking and talking to them? And if you put yourself 100% there, that's spirituality.
And it'll grow.
It will eventually grow from there. I think for others, it could be just as simple, just trying to sit for 2 minutes. Just put a timer on your watch. All we got smart watches. Just put a 2-minute timer and close your eyes and see that can you sit for 2 minutes. Thoughts will come. Let them come. Just don't engage. Let them come. And I think usually come, acknowledge it, let it go. Come, acknowledge it, let it go. But don't engage with the thought. And do it only for 2 minutes. If you're able to do 2 minutes, next time you'll 3, next time you'll 4, and then eventually will grow. Or just 2 minutes is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with just being 2 minutes or even 1 minute. Whatever our mental capacity, our physical things allows us to do is, in my view, that could be your first step. Or I think the other last aspect I can talk about is just sit with someone who's into this zone and who into spirituality, or just have a chat with them. Just having a chat could change things as well in you. It could just help nurture and grow that seed into, and you don't know what you can learn from them. So I think do that. So any of these things, depending on who you are, where you are.
This is what the beauty of spirituality is. There are so many ways. It's not just one way.
Absolutely,
You
yes.
can be spiritual in every which way. The way you drink water, the way you walk,
yes.
the way you talk, what you listen to. And it's just how you are within you. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
And thank you so much for coming. And I have a lot to talk about still.
Sure.
So you will have to come back again for sure.
No problem. But thank you very much. It's been very pleasure, and really
Thank you.
enjoyed my chat with you. And I think it allowed me to share things which I generally would not talk. But at the same time, I think as you mentioned before in our earlier discussion, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be with whatever it is, and then being clear about it, it's also, I think, helps you grow. And now I'm pretty happy with the chat. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.